Our wing commander is joining us this morning. I know. What? It's like even Sinatra here. So
not really. That's Sinatra, Chief Roach. Where are you going? You're running? You're rolling to the coffee. All right, I'll take some of that. I think it's a lively enough crowd. Are you getting? Yeah, I'll take one, please. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think we're live streaming too. Is there like 5 people on live streaming? That's always good. Hello to the live streaming audience too. Definitely not Sinatra. I think you said that when I was doing the cat thing recently, and then
It's my go-to.
If anybody's watching their cat page, it's not faring well for me with my trivia performance, but I knew that from the start. Not good at trivia.
Chief is taking issues already.
Yeah, there's a tied ball game with Chief right now and Colonel French, who went last night. They're at 7-7, and I was a lowly 3.5, and I pleaded for the last half points there. So
We didn't know Wally Rickwald right out of the gate. He doesn't.
that wasn't me. That was your husband. But I hope it's been a great morning for you all, and I thank the team here for putting this on. You know, when you drive on base, you see the mission airman community, and as far as the community piece goes, I define it by the on-base community, and then it also is defined in my book as the off-base community too, and it's a mixing of both of those. And you may have been at some other bases where you've seen like mission airman family. Yes, family is included in the community part, but I stretch it also then to that relationship that we have with the Germans, and then also everything that we do on base. And you'll probably, in fact, be seeing what we've developed recently as we're calling the playbook. It goes into a little bit more definition of those terms and what we really mean to get after with the vision of the playbook with the community part. And the 3 words that Chief and I talk about continually are connection, resiliency, and respect for that one. So for the connection piece, and I do this story at newcomers a little bit for all the AFRC that are in here. Sorry, you've heard this one before, but I think it's a good story, and it also involves Sabre too, but oh, that's hot. It's good. When Angela and I first started dating, she was in Dallas, Texas, and I was at Shepherd going through my initial qualification for flying, and that was pretty cool for her because it was only a couple-hour drive from her hometown, right? And then after that, I went down to Randolph Air Force Base in San Antonio, which was another really neat town and pretty close to home. And then I went to Phoenix after that for F-16 training, and not as close to home, but a pretty cool city to be living in. But then in the basic course for F-16 training, you draw straws for what assignment you're going to get, and I was really hoping to get to Aviano, Italy, and I didn't get the long straw. So the short straw actually drew me Cannon Air Force Base, New Mexico, which was quite a change from those other big cities that, Angela knowing somewhat about the military and what it did, but not like that much about it, was kind of an interesting thing to know that it was now Clovis, New Mexico as the next assignment. So fairly close to Dallas, I guess, right, Ange, but not as close as the others, and didn't have the benefit of the Phoenix and things like that. But no offense to anybody that's from like the Clovis area. It's just, it's interesting going there from a bigger city type thing. Definitely like how it gets cool at night there. Clovis, New Mexico? No. It does. It's got a little nice cow smell to it, to the area. A lot of wind and a lot of bugs. I remember that too. But so having that was a little bit of a shock, and we got married in October, and 2 months later, OIF was about to kick off with the Shock and Awe campaign, if you guys remember that. And there was a guy at an air base called Shaquiza Air Base who was deployed as a one-off. Usually, you deploy as a squadron, but he was deployed being a chief of safety for the base. And his wife got blood clots, and they called the base and they said, we need somebody that's safety qualified to go now, like 2 days later. And so that was me, and she had just come out to Clovis, Mexico, and we had literally 2 months prior been married. And we were like, oh, what are you going to do? I got to go. I can't not go on this one. So I was leaving, and it was like, the 1st of January, I think, that I flew out of Lubbock, Texas on to wherever else. Lubbock, Texas. There's Chief. He knows the area. Guns out. There they are. I like you guys because I like Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. But I don't know about else for Texas Tech. But so there she was now with me leaving for 3 to 4 months. We didn't know how long, right? And she's like, well, what do I do? Do I stay here? I was looking at a job, starting a job, and do I just uproot and go back to Dallas? And the answer was no, because there was a squadron there, and there were individuals, and there was a community that allowed her to make some connections. And the next thing I know, there's like a picture coming to me when I'm in my little tent here with a sheet next to the guy that's on the other side of the sheet. sitting in there, but I'm getting mail occasionally, and a picture that was sent to me shows her hanging out with a bunch of squadron mates that are in our house, and I don't know half of them. Like, what's going on here? But I thought that was really cool, just on how the community can come together, and I share that story with the picture that I've got usually when we're doing this thing with the welcomes, is because like that's how important it was that she found some sort of friend network and people to hang around and people to connect with. And it's important for our airmen, but it's not just important for our airmen, it's important for the families to do too. Interestingly enough, there was a guy in a UCLA shirt in that picture. Maybe it was a hat. I have to look deeper into the picture. And my dad had gone to UCLA, so I was like, who's that guy? And it turns out that it's Colonel McKibben, so our vice wing commander, right, which was pretty cool. And that was one of the persons that I hadn't met. So talk about a small world too, and just the connections you can make across the Air Force. And I'm sure that you all have made some of those too. But the lucky thing here is that you're not just connecting there with the squadron, but what we've got here is the connection that we're obviously making with the Germans. And I think that's a great opportunity, and you guys know those, and hopefully some of the things that we can do better as a community we're being thought of and talked about. I know I've already had a little bit of feedback of some of the things that were discussed this morning, but trust me that Chief and I talk about also our families in the pictures when we show those and what it means to us to make a base like spectacular and like the best in the Air Force, and also make the Air Force better. But with him having a daughter that's off on her own, that's one of the stories he'll tell, and you can tell it yourself if you'd like to come up here, but he has a daughter that's off in college, so he's got that same consideration for the connection piece and the resiliency piece, which is the second word on that playbook. But then we also care about how we make the base better for the future, as some interest with particularly my near-to-be 17-year-old of joining up with the Air Force. Excuse me. So I think of, well, what if she's coming to Spangdahlem Air Base in the future? How is this base the best that protects her, that develops her, that cares for her, and that makes her a better person in the future, while doing all that, supporting the mission that we're obviously here to get after, right? Which is important for our country, for our values, for our freedom, for our democracy, and then also for that of all of those that we are here in Europe supporting with the NATO alliance and also deterring Russia. So anyway, hopefully you see the playbook around. We've ordered some posters that are apparently not in yet, but we spent a bunch of colonels sitting around talking forever to come up with the 9 words that are underlined on this. Took about a day. So a lot of debate to the words, so at least I feel like they have some good meaning because we can explain what they all mean. And then finally for the community one, we use the word respect. So it's connection, resiliency, and respect again. And then for the airmen, since y'all play a piece in that one too with the families here on base, we talk about courage, innovation, and investment, which I think are very important. And then under the mission, we talk about deter, defend, and then if we're called upon, to dominate. There's a lot going on in that area of things that we're focused on. You probably heard some of the exercise noises this week, the bangs and the more announcements than normal on the loudspeakers, but that's all, part of it as an integrated deterrence piece against Russia and then also China in our near-peer competition that we're in, but then it also has the ability for us to all be prepared to support the readiness across the board with our ability to go out there and dominate if we have to. And Russia's been doing some things, I'll just say it at that, recently, and we're watching closely, and we want them to know that we're ready, and that all of our servicemen and women are ready. So with that, I don't want to talk the whole time. I want to hear your feedback, questions for me, and I'll pull the chief up here, or I'll defer to Angela and get her up here if there's any super tough questions. But how'd the morning go, or what can we do better, or what's on your minds? I heard maybe there's some questions on some medical things potentially, or bowling alley opening on Sundays. It's happening on Sunday. Yeah, please.
I have childcare questions. For somebody who is not working, who has active duty spouse, I think the odds of me getting my kids into the CDC are 0 right now. You mentioned the community aspect with the Germans, and I think we're missing a great opportunity to further that. But by not having kindergarten-age kids go to the kindergartens because they're full with the German kids. And so even though I've been here for 2 years, we've not been able to get our daughter into a German kindergarten in the community, well, really in any of the surrounding kindergartens. And so how can we address that, or is there a way to further that relationship with the German community to maybe relieve some of the burden from the CDC or the base?
That's a great question, and beautiful kids, by the way. But I've asked that on a limited form to some of the Germans, and the response I get initially on the wave tops was like, well, we've got the same problems too. We can't find people to employ. And so, we have limitations just like you do. But I have a deal tonight, and this has been on my mind, of a couple key individuals that'll be at this function tonight that I planned on redressing it with, because I know, like in Italy, you can do that pretty easily. In all the towns, and there's great childcare, so it's not as big of a problem, even though across the board, everybody's got CDC issues, and if everybody isn't tracking that, it's like a common complaint that whenever we see Chief Bass or Chief Master Sergeant Bass or Chief Brown, Chief Staff of the Air Force, General Brown, it's brought up to them as a factor too. And to me, it goes into our diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? Because like we want to keep, we have low minority of females in the force, and a lot of times I know there's a couple here, at least right now, that are getting out because they can't get childcare. And to me, I'm like, that is not what we're trying to work for. We need to solve this problem so we can get after the things that we're trying to do to have the diversity across the force. So I poke that every time I go into the Air Force Connect app. I don't know if you have that, but it's got a button on there where you can put in inputs of things that you're seeing, and I go in there and I put that in about once a month, so at least I know that they're collecting at least some of those data points. But they are aware of it. I don't know the answer on the German piece, but I can tell you that we have a little bit of progress being made here on base. Last time I checked, which was about a week and a half ago, there were 6 potential candidates for employment on our CDC here locally. The problem is it takes a little bit because they have to have all their medical screenings done, and sometimes if you don't have a good record of your vaccines, then that has to be like lab tests and everything that have to be sent back to the U.S., and I can't get around that one. But I've tried to at least do a better job of setting the expectations for those people that are applying for those jobs, that it might take a couple of weeks before they hear back, because you sometimes get these people that are interested, and then by the time that they get all their stuff together and the labs back, they've moved on and found something else. So I've tried to okay, here's the process, and a little bit more of that up front with the FSS to acknowledge, to keep them on board. So I think that'll help if we can at least get some of them, and we'll be able to open up a little bit more here on base. I know 2 years when you haven't seen it, but we've looked at increasing the incentives. The amount of pay has already gone up, not substantially, but some, but we're looking at increasing the benefits across the board too. I'm not sure how much it is for the bonuses that are being given, but
Do you want me to answer?
you probably, I'm sure you have the specifics, but thanks.
Wait, can I just make you stop 1 second?
Oh,
We're going to
the
use the
mic.
mic because folks online can't hear us in the room.
I'm Christine Clayton, the FSS deputy. We have just increased pay again at the CDC, starting with now $13.53 for folks to come out. We went from $10 to $12 to $13.53 in 60 days. Our staff was crucially manned at 13 staff for 11 classrooms, and now we're at 27 staff, all in the last 60 days. So we are working, and as soon as we get additional staff on, we'll be able to open the 2 closed classrooms that we have. But we also have family child care. They do drop-in care. We went from 1 family child care person doing it in their home. We have 6 now. So all in the last 90 days for family child care. So we do know it's an issue. We do, and we're trying our best to work on it right now. So.
But I don't plan on letting the pedal off the metal on that one.
Us either. And the Air Force in and of itself just granted FSS here $67,000 so that we could do retention bonuses and recruitment bonuses for our staff. So right now, if you come to work for us at the CDC, you get an automatic $250 on-the-spot signing bonus. And then if you're here for a year, you get a $1,000 cash bonus. If you complete your modules, you get a pay increase. So if you start with us at $13.53 in 1 year, you could be making $16.60 an hour. That's more than our GS 5s and 6s are making on the installation.
So great work by all of our civilian personnel office, FSS, and everything to try to make it better. I know we've been struggling with that one, but I'm going to still work on the German aspect. We've looked also at having German employees working on base. There's some legality stuff there that I don't know if we'll get there on that one, but we're looking at all angles.
This is just a thought I had. Could the Air Force fund spots in the kindergartens in the communities? I don't know if that's a pie in the sky idea.
You've looked at that?
If
Yeah.
Germans would fill those spots,
She's got the solution.
Be reserved to the Americans in that community. It would eliminate maybe some of the sort of, we don't have spots for Americans, but allow for that further development of the German-American relationships within those communities.
Yeah, being told for those of you online that may not have heard the answer, we've also looked at that, but again, I'll keep pressing for options. I think our best solution for the near term is at least the added employees. But across the board, if you guys know anybody that's looking for a NAF job and non-appropriate fund job, like we got the bowling alley, we got the club here, there's openings. USA Jobs. How many vacancies?
We have
43 vacancies.
And we have 7 GS. That's the appropriated fund position.
And 7 GS, so cool.
This is also
Please.
childcare, but it comes to us at plan like key spouse events and like I said, senior community spouses. We need a place to have an event, and the club is very expensive, so we use the brick house. The brick house closes at 5, so we can't do events in the community because we have no place to do them. So that goes, we need the community center to be open and the community is actually able to attend it, which would be after 5. And we just refuse to. It's a lot to try to get them to. I mean, I understand staffing and stuff, but it's almost like, well, if we have an event at 2, nobody comes to the childcare. We have to do it in the evenings because people have to have a place to leave their kids with their spouses. So it sounds little, but it becomes kind of like how can we build a better community if we don't have a place to meet?
Okay, do it. If you know the hours, you probably know better than
I
me.
can absolutely answer that. It's not because we don't want to help you. That's absolutely not true. Right, we absolutely don't want you. We want to be a part of your community. We do Loteria every other Friday night at the community center. We do karaoke.
But we want to do our spouse
Absolutely.
community events. We love the community center, what it's doing. We just need an opportunity to hold our own events in a place that doesn't charge us $500.
Absolutely. So we will charge you at the Brick House, but it's not $500.
It's $20
Absolutely.
but
So
it closes at 5.
it doesn't have to close at 5, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay, wonderful.
If you work with Tom Cox, we are working on staffing right now. It's another one. This is the great resignation right now throughout the entire community, the world, everywhere. People are not interested in working right now. We are advocating for people to come work for us in every position that we have available. We have 43 positions. We have 2 vacancies at the community center, and it's been going on since the pandemic started 24 months ago. But we can definitely work around you. If it's not, once a month, if that's realistic to you, we will make it happen.
There's different key spouses, like I'm a mentor for the AMXS. Well,
Yes.
AMXS wants to hold an event too,
Sure.
and so does LRS, but it's like,
Yep, and if we can do those once a month instead of tasking my already overburdened staff, we can definitely work something out with you. Tom Cox, he's on Global, COX. If you can send him a note and just say that you were at the spouses, and I'll let him know, I'll give him a heads up when he gets back Monday that we talked. But we want to help you, we absolutely do.
thank you for that.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
It was like a brick wall.
We will help you.
I've heard that elsewhere, but Chaplin's got their spots too. Let me have a Chaplin.
I'm Chaplain Pippin. We have 2 great meeting spaces. If you want to fill out a facility request for the chapel, it is free $99, and you can come on and visit the chapel. We have 2 meeting spots that are pretty good, attached to kitchens also.
And I'm not trying to creep on anybody that's giving you the answers.
good
Like, here's what you got to say. I'm getting the mic near them so they can hear. What are you about to say?
How many people do those spaces hold? If anyone sends me an email, I'm the email Pippin in the Global. I can get you those numbers for those spaces. Thank you.
Cool.
Hi, so we're going to be back on childcare, obviously a hot button issue with spouses.
Where's the mic? I lost the mic. There you are. Sorry.
The people that you're hiring, is there any indication that that's going to trickle into be able to actually have the preschool part day enrichment program available for those that are going to be there and not on my lap at this meeting?
That's not a plan for us. Right now, we have to take care of the active duty military and the dual military right now that are on our waiting list. So that's our priority right now. And until we can get that priority cleared, we are not even thinking about part day enrichment. No.
But if we keep the hires coming, we'll get there. But yeah. Cool. I hear you all, though. Good points. Thank you.
Sir, we also have some other questions if nobody has any right now.
On the child care front, the room at the gym, some people feel it's a little small, or maybe just the gym in general. Is there anything that they can do to help parents out?
Yeah, we've looked at this one, I think before. Did you guys implement a plan to change that at all, or the hours? I don't know, we talked about that.
We have a plan in place, and we're looking at expansion and adding additional pieces of equipment and putting up.
That was going to be over there at the gym, right? So for those that didn't hear that online, there's a plan in place. It is going to expand that with some new additional equipment. I heard you also discuss this morning maybe like the upstairs track to be able to walk around up there or something as it gets cooler. So I think that's fair enough to have at least an hour or two up there where we could do something like that. So we'll discuss that. I'll discuss that with the FSS partners, the Force Support Squadron, and we'll see what we can do for that part too.
Another question, sir, to stay on the fitness front. This is, I guess, more for the parents or adults. They would love more evening fitness classes. Any thoughts on that, or would you like to speak to that?
They're working it.
Absolutely. We are working that. We are currently looking for instructors right now for fitness instructors, anybody that does massage therapy, anybody for aerobics. If you're interested, stop by the fitness center. But yes, we are desperately looking for contractor folks to come up and actually offer those classes. We have 3 instructors at PCS, so it's just a matter of getting the word out to the community and encouraging people to come by and see us. Yes, ma'am.
So, I am fully qualified to teach level 1 CrossFit. I have all of my certifications, but my issue as a volunteer and volunteering my time is childcare. So I'm happy to teach group level instruction in the CrossFit gym, but here's the issue is I cannot bring my children into that gym. I have no way of anybody watching my children. So if you want group level instructors and somebody to teach CrossFit, I'm happy to give my time freely. I do it as a key spouse. I just need somebody to watch my kids.
Once we are able to staff the CDC fully, we do have volunteer care for appointments and other things like that. We can work individually with you, but again, staffing is an issue. So maybe beginning of the new year, we can sit down and talk to you about, what we can do to help. Your neighbor can watch your child on the installation up to 10 hours a week without being family child care certified. It can be an ongoing and repetitive 10 hours a week, and then you can perform your volunteer hours at the fitness center.
If you have a very cool neighbor.
Do you have any friends that live on base that can help us through the next couple months?
That's like what's going back to is I shouldn't have like the
Yeah.
on
Please hook me up so I can.
it shouldn't have to be my neighbors doing this. Like if we as a Spangdahlem base and we want to service our community and keep our military fit and ready for battle, then I'm also volunteering my time and very expensive CrossFit credentials that I have personally paid for. I feel as if we should be able to house one child. That means
No, and I understand completely, and hopefully after the great resignation ends, and we get Steph on board, we'll be able to take care of your one child and get you rolling with FSS and volunteering for us. That'd be great.
And I just follow up with that, because you said something about getting the active duty for the staff. Can you give me numbers on that? Like, what's your, how many are you looking to fill? Like, what are the numbers, just so that we can be perspective of how long it will take to meet your CDC goals?
Are you talking about how many children are
Like
on the waiting list?
How many CDC
We're looking to
providers do you
hire
need
at
staff?
least, yes, we're looking to hire at least 15 more staff.
Okay.
Yes, and then currently on the waiting list, we have 32 active duty military children waiting for spaces. That changes every single day.
And then I just have a curiosity, is there any way to shorten that time of when you apply on USAA and then the interview process? No, it's just that.
That's just a AFPC process they go through. They too are limited to staffing. They have a huge deficit. Most of their positions are one deep right now. And we're telling folks realistically to get hired into a GS position takes 171 days to get a GS authorization from the time you apply till the time you're in the seat with difficulties at AFPC and just getting vaccinations, background checks, all that other stuff.
So is that COVID related, or is that like the normal, the 170?
It all relates to the other thing. COVID, people are not going back. People in San Antonio, Texas at AFPC right now are currently teleworking. They're not physically in place back at their center because the states have different COVID issues than what we're experiencing in Germany. So, but we tell people realistically, when you apply for that job and you're selected, realistically for planning purposes, no earlier than 130 days, 171 is our average. And we have metrics all across the Air Force that show that this is the average across the Air Force. For NAF, it's a little bit different. It's not quite as long to get somebody onboarded through NAF, but realistically speaking, we tell people 6 weeks. Yep.
And it's never been easy or fast.
I'm just picking your brain.
No, I know.
It's not like an accusatory type thing.
I don't know how we make it better, though. That's what I want to do, right? Because every time I've even had to hire somebody that's not in the childcare business even, it's like it just takes forever. And the numbers somehow that are presented up and up and up, or I don't know if it takes like 10% off or gets 10% better every time it goes up, because there never seem to be that bad of reporting that it takes this long to go through the process, and that how clunky the system really is that I've seen firsthand. But we are, in any meeting I have, like with the A1, the personnel people that are managing either the A1 parts with the personnel or even with General Herigian, like we bring this stuff up and let them know. So the attention, I think, is getting more and more on it as we have these problems like y'all are discussing. Because the second and third order effects that were already mentioned, like we can't get a CrossFit instructor that's full qualified because back to the childcare problem, right? And we have people wanting to get out of the Air Force that are females to go be mothers because there's no one to watch the kids. And that's pretty unsaid.
Hey, sir, I have another question from the board. This one's about tours. So some people brought up the idea of a tour when you go through newcomers, not just tours off base, but maybe for spouses, tours around the base, like that's the fitness center, etc. Your thoughts maybe on something like that?
I think that'd be a great idea. I've seen that before, where we take people around. So didn't think about that one. I like it. Whoever made that comment, we'll definitely look at it. I think and there's been some things that are getting turned back on, that were stopped all because of COVID. Like some of the local area tours to go out and see some of the places are being turned back on too, that AFRC puts on, right? So we'll have those, but then the base one in itself, I think, is a great idea. Then you could do the whole lap around the base. There's the passenger terminal. You're on the other side of base you didn't even know existed all the way over here.
Know that we've been watching social media. Senator Rhodes has been watching it, but no questions.
Okay. Cool.
So moving on to housing. Some people feel the wait is pretty long. You want to talk on maybe why that wait may be very long?
Yeah, so it's not like we have a bunch of empty houses sitting around, I don't think. Right? There are some of the apartment style living are not as desirable, I know, by everybody across the board. And then we have obviously the houses, and we have a limited number of those ones. So I think you get 2 to 3, not necessarily your lane in the FSS, but two shows, and then if you don't pick one of those two, and what if they're exactly the same one that they show you just in a different building? That's not super awesome because it's really the same building that you're looking at, and maybe that's not the desirable one. So I'll take that back to the housing office and the civil engineers and see if we can look at that with giving people maybe other options and looking at the same house or the same floor plan, just in another floor plan. But the reason I think that they're doing that is because there's nothing else in existence as far as the other regular type houses go that you see across the base. Now, we were slowed down a little bit with our construction projects due to the previous administration's move of money to fund the wall. We've gotten a lot of that money back now. And so that's allowing us to move forward with the planned construction project for an elementary school that'll match the kind of the specs that you see of the middle and the high school. However, it's going to be like not to the exact, probably not to the exact capacity as the middle and high school, just based on our current demands for people that'll be on the base. However, when that's built, it should open up an opportunity, not that it's funded, but for some additional housing on base, which would be good. So all those things are in the plan. I know that's not going to help the near term for anybody that's on that housing wait list, but I'll certainly, again, take that back to see if we can do anything better on that one. Chief, you got anything else on that one? I know you've been a little bit involved in that.
No, sir, I think well, let me put this right. I think you explained it perfectly. I think a lot of it is, if I understand that question correctly, if we're talking wait time for housing, we're talking townhouses, or we're talking stairwell? The wait time for stairwell? So there's still a long wait for stairwell housing?
Does anybody know about that question? Was it online?
No, sir. No.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll dig into it, because I think there's stairwell housing available.
That's my understanding too. Now, it might not be on the first floor, I think is one of the historic problems we have, which is why one of those was demoed a number of years ago that is now part of that playground that's over by the housing area. But, no one wanted to live on the second or third floor, and it was also one of our older buildings, so we just actually demoed it.
Yeah, we'll go back and ask the question, kind of dig in and see what the problem set is and try to dig in.
Yeah, I just want to bring this to the attention because I just moved here, so you guys can
Hello.
explain. This is our fourth assignment, so I kind of have an idea, but the internet issue with housing, not here on base, but just like getting set up, finding a house, getting the internet was a complete shock to me, and there wasn't a lot of resources to mentally prepare me for that. I'm 2 months in my house and I still don't have internet. The tricky part is that I'm in the mid of a online grad, and like my professors don't understand that. They're like, go to a cafe. Well, cafes are closed at like 4 here and stuff like that. So that's I don't know if you guys are aware of that, and honestly, if there's anything to make that better, because all the internet companies now don't have any English customer service except for O2. Don't ever get O2. But so it's just kind of like you're in a rock and a hard place. So I don't know if there's anything that we can do to make that transition better.
I think Chief knows this one.
No, I don't. That's the second time I've heard that this week, and something I was going to dig in on. But someone else, 2 months, I think, and they didn't have internet as well. So, and I can tell you, coming from a previous other European base, it's the same way there, right? It's the European culture and how they get after things. So,
laying the expectations out, plan ahead.
And we can talk.
Yeah.
Can there be better literature on that though? Like,
Yeah.
I would be so angry if I wasn't in my house and then someone's like, oh, 2 months is normal. Like nobody mentally prepared that for me.
Sure.
Then I probably would have dropped my classes and then taken a break. Yeah. I'm in the middle of my classes to where if I drop them, I don't get refunded. So that's what I mean. I just kind of want maybe there's better literature on the housing when you go in about hey, this is German lens or something.
Yeah, I appreciate your point. I think we'll look at the sponsor packet that's also put out to see what's in there, because I'm not sure it's in, FRC has that too, and it's given all the sponsors. I don't know what it says about internet in there, but I know surely wherever you go in Europe, if you're lead turning that helps along with the process. And then second off, I'm pretty sure there's some places on base that we have some access for internet too, right?
The USO, the library.
And AFRC. You've been there? You're the rotating each week you go hang out with?
So the other thing I would say on that,
Chapel!
add in, and there's a lead time at my other installation I was at, but we also had a local guy that would run it to ground for you, and so it didn't take 2 months. Right? Like that's the normal lead time, but this guy could take your photo ID and everything, he could go get your internet hooked up. And so we just got to dig in and find out. I know some people that can do it. It's whether they want to do it full time. So it's just something I promise I got to dig into.
So I don't know how much you all have talked in here about this morning, or maybe that it hasn't been mentioned on the online, those that are dialing in or watching this later. If there's any COVID questions or things like that, we can handle them now. I'll just give a couple points from the med group as I was talking with them on some things. And again, this may be additional information or repeat information that you've already heard this morning from being in here. But for booster shots, they are available. Okay, not all types and all fashions, but they are available at the med group right now. If you deem that you're yourself in a category of increased risk, and they're even if whatever you deem yourself as, if you go there wanting a booster, I don't think they're going to turn you away. All right, so those are existing right now. Flu shots are also galore across the board ready. So sign up for an appointment for those if you would like them for anybody that's eligible. And then thirdly, the questions come up, I think, recently too about the younger vaccines, the Pfizer for the younger generation, the 5 to 11-year-olds, I think it is. So is it 5? I think it's 5, right? Okay. So those are ordered. but they will not be here for a couple of weeks. So expect probably later this month when we'll start opening those up for the youngins, if they are desiring it. No mandatory on any of those, right? But if it is desired by anybody, it's open. And we're closely still monitoring the statistics, local area, and then also on base. And there is a bit of a fourth wave, I guess they're calling it, across Germany. So we're cautious with that one. We recently updated, our mask policy to be flexible policy. So it's not like a memorandum is going to be coming out from me that everybody has to send through all the wickets. And then, it's another whole thing that goes out and changes the entire policy for the base. We've made it to where Public Affairs just has basically a banner that'll go if we have to change to start wearing masks again based on the numbers. Because that's a Department of Defense driven policy that if you hit a certain threshold, then everybody's supposed to start wearing masks again. So we've had obviously the fortune the past couple of weeks of not wearing them. And I hope to continue that. We're still good right now, but I will say that the trend's not going in the right direction, unfortunately. And we've had a few breakthrough cases even here locally. But they've been confined to a one workspace, and it was only 2 individuals, so it's not like it's a huge concern on me. But just so you know, just continuing to be vigilant on that one. And vaccines are continually available. Good news is for the active duty force, we're about 98% vaccinated, so that's pretty huge. And then our DoD GS civilians here are sitting very, very close to 100%. So that's great news too, I think, for us as we look to, the readiness piece is very important to all of our leaders in the Department of Defense, which is why it's been mandated for the GS and the military, the active duty military, because it's the readiness piece and then also taking care of the force. A few people have been granted some exemptions, but the exemptions are really pretty far and few between, if anybody's wondering about that. There's been certain medical ones, but it's a limited cases that are medically exempt. And then there's very, very few religious accommodations that are getting approved on the way up, because again, it goes back to the readiness of the job that we're doing. And when we sign up, like Chief and I talk about this one too, but we sign up, we don't have all the freedoms that everybody else has in the world necessarily to do the job when we put on the uniform. So that's kind of part of the policy there. But the great news is that we have very few individuals still on base, and we're not wearing masks obviously yet. I say yet, so I'll knock on wood for that, because I like seeing y'all smiles.
Sir, so on that same note, there's some confusion. I know I'm confused, maybe I'm the only one, but so yesterday the states announced that some changes to folks that are going to be coming into the U.S. Before it was everybody had to test, vaccinated or unvaccinated. I think it's still everybody has to test, but there's a longer period of time prior to travel to the states for folks that are vaccinated versus unvaccinated. And I know Germany has eliminated many of their testing locations. So what's testing like for folks on base for leisure travel to the States since the holidays are coming up?
Yeah, we've opened it back up for everybody. For it's mainly, if there's a need for people that are going on actual TDYs, then they take the priority. So it's kind of on a little bit of a space available basis for anybody that's doing any leisure travel. But my last check on that was it was open for everyone. Is that what you're tracking, Chief? Yes, you kind of nodding your head. You're sideways nodding.
Yes, Bunger still does it. I think it's €15 for an antigen test. We just talked to someone that's PCS in, and it's €80 for PCR Trier.
Yeah.
So there are still some places. I think we could get with the med group and make sure our list is
and
accurate.
And I think there's space available for the leisure travel still on base. And I will say though, if you're on orders, it's worked for Chief and I when we went to the States recently, and there's a little clause in the CDC. If you are on military orders, so PCS or anything else, to go to the U.S., you do not actually need the tests. So I found that out when I was going on emergency leave with my family, and I got there and I had all the tests, and they're like, well, why do you have these? I'm like, well, it's because everybody told me I needed them. And then the next time I went, Chief and I tried it when we had orders again, and you didn't have to actually have the test on official orders travel. And I was told that sometimes they're accepting those for just leave orders. So... And look, I'm getting some head nods in here that actually worked too. So there's a little bit of a wiggle room there, I think, with the airlines. If you're talking specifically about the airline trips to the U.S., the policy I think you're alluding to that changed that I saw is if you're fully vaccinated, then you only have to have, and not on orders, then you have to have that 1 day test ahead of in advance. And if you're not fully vaccinated, you have to, or 1 day for not fully vaccinated, you can do up to 3 days if you are fully vaccinated. But again, I think there's a little bit of wiggle room if you have any type of orders at the airport if you're flying out of Frankfurt. That's my test case. And again, if you're going through a place though with a connection, it could change the calculus a little bit. I don't know. So always best, I think, to look on the airline's website or the CDC guidance. Your backfall could be that the testing facility is still existing there at Frankfurt Airport if you don't have one.
Sir, currently we just have 2 more questions at the moment. One goes back to the vaccine.
Okay.
And when are the vaccines going to be available for the younger children? For under 11 that just got approved?
Yeah, that's the one that's been ordered, but they're saying like about a 3-week delivery time, just based on everybody. We ordered them before expecting this to happen, but everybody else was kind of doing that. Maybe not everybody, but a lot of other people. And so that's why I think it's taking so long to get them here. But we think like best case towards the end of the month.
And what is the vaccination rate for non-military? Do you have it for like the spouses and the family members?
That one's more difficult to track because I for all the HIPAA rules, I can't get that information. Like even for the DoD civilians, that was challenging to get to where I got to figure out that we had very like less than a handful of people that were not fully vaccinated, and all those are now, I think, planning to get vaccinated. But the initial take on that was that I couldn't actually ask for any documentation. Now, however, the guidance has changed that I can actually ask for the documentation, but it was just going to be are you vaccinated? And everybody says yes, okay, we're good. So that was the initial read, but then there's been a new legal update that actually gets those paperwork, but I don't think it'll ever change that I can go and ask the spouses and other dependents, children and stuff for it. But it's all available, and I like to see, more the merrier for sure, because then I think it helps the base to continue to stay open and not shut down. Unfortunately, like Ramstein had to shut down a middle school for a bit there because of multiple COVID outbreaks. But knock on wood, we've been good there.
And the final question at the moment, sir, is going back to space. A lot of people have noticed that those old schools we have, those that have heard about. I think we've used them pretty well, in my opinion, going with the vaccine and whatnot, but a lot of people are just curious how we'll use them moving forward.
Well, that depends. The aim is to actually demo parts of them because it costs a lot of money for the continual upkeep. And you've probably seen some of the buildings around base that we still have to put money into and take care of to a certain extent, and they just sit there and they're empty and they're not anything that anybody would ever want to go in. For instance, like the Burger King, right? The old Burger King building. It looks like it could still be a Burger King on the outside, but you go to the inside and that's not the case. And so the aim there would be to take things like that down. And then that school has a few problems also, with the exception of the newer looking buildings, like I think you're mentioning where the COVID testing facility is and the COVID vaccination center is. Those would be ultimately to keep, but the rest we got to get demolition money to try to get all that out of there. But for now, it's staying, and I know that there's a few things that are done in that area, but it's largely empty and just costing us money to remain on the books for now.
All right, sir. Any final thoughts for everybody? Those at home as well?
Nothing? All right, so big takeaways that Chief and we'll look into. We'll hit up on the internet thing. And then what we can do to either spread the word on that or to help expedite that process. We'll look at the housing wait list and what we can do to move forward quicker on any of those if there is any type of like turnaways, or not to show you the exact same model twice and then take you off the list. And then, of course, I'll keep swinging the bat there about CDC and getting employees and opening that up for childcare and thinking innovatively like we try to do here at Sabre Nation, to be able to employ others and to be able to also, keep people in the Air Force, et cetera, et cetera. I noticed like both those people that brought those ones up are out with their kids probably now too, right? But oh yeah, they're under. They're not running around. You got them to sleep. Be quieter. Well, anything else? Well, Jeannie, Jenny, and the rest of the team, thank you again. AFRC, everybody that helped put this on this morning. I don't know when the last time we did one of these was. 2 years ago. Wow. So fantastic for everybody to get together. I hope the information that was provided was helpful, and then also the information that you provided to us is certainly helpful. So I thank you for taking the time out of your schedules on this Friday morning for everybody to be here and to convey that information and also listen to us. Trust me that Chief and I go out everywhere and we look for anything that we think is stupid and we try to fix it because we don't like stupid. That's what we say as we go around. And it's General Brown's theme too when he talks about his action orders. His action order A is airmen, action order B is bureaucracy and fighting bureaucracy. So both of those things are kind of tied together, right? Because we want to take care of our airmen and we want to fight anything that's stupid. And we're looking at a bunch of other initiatives that I won't even go into here because I don't know if they're going to make it, right? And the next thing you know, if I tell you one of them in here, it'll be like, they said it was going to happen. But we've got some good ideas of things that I think will make lives easier for people that live on base and off base. That'll help us to increase our connections, increase our resiliency, and then go and in accordance with the themes that we're talking about for St. Nation of wanting to be like the most innovative airmen on the planet with the kind of things that a lot of our airmen have thought about. And I bet you some of their ideas come from you all in here as you go home and you go like, why do we do that? And that's just the idea of the why do we do that? And then we try to figure out another way to not do it that same way. So thank you again. Chief and I always go around and say, seek, attack, destroy. And that's what we definitely try to do with everything that we're here. And not actually destroy it, right? The deter, defend, dominate, we'd like to rather just deter, but the patch is in itself that says the seek, attack, destroy, so we'll go for it. But destroy what? Barriers, perfect. The chaplain's got some good ones too on their slide, how they turned them into. So, all right, well, thank you, everybody. Happy Friday, and I hope you all have a great weekend.